suffered an accident at work and woke up in a hospital bed. Initially, he thought it was just a minor injury, but the doctor informed him that he was infected with a severe strain of HIV and had less than 30 days to live. Ron refused to believe it. At that time, the public widely believed that AIDS was only transmitted through homosexual contact, and Ron had nothing but contempt for gay people. The doctor explained that his T-cell count had dropped to just 9, whereas a healthy person's count should be between 500 and 1. 500? It was a miracle he was still alive. But Ron was convinced the hospital had mixed up the blood samples and mistakenly given him someone else's diagnosis. He didn't want to hear another word, got up to leave, and before walking out, he threw the diagnosis report at the doctor and cursed his entire family. Back home, Ron completely ignored the doctor's warning. He called over 2 escort girls and carried on as usual. When friends asked, Ron remained in denial, insisting it was just a cold. But one friend asked, what if the hospital wasn't wrong? That hit Ron hard. He turned and saw the calendar on the wall. The bright red 30 felt like a knife, reminding him that his life was now on a countdown. After his friend left, Ron went straight to the library to look up information, hoping to prove he couldn't possibly have AIDS. Through his research, he learned that AIDS wasn't only spread through homosexual activity, drug use and promiscuous sex were also major risk factors. That made Ron think of the woman covered in needle marks he had been with. For the first time, he believed the diagnosis was real. In the 1980s, the only drug available in the US to treat AIDS was called ACT. Ron rushed to the hospital to buy it, but the doctor told him the drug was still in the experimental phase and was only being provided to selected trial participants. Ron pulled out a list of foreign medications, but the doctor shook his head and said, none of these are approved. Even if they work, you can't get them here. The doctor suggested he try a support group to at least ease some of the pressure. Ron found the idea ridiculous. Frustrated, Ron went to a bar to drink, but news of his diagnosis had already spread. As soon as he sat down, someone mockingly called him sweetheart, and laughter erupted around him. Enraged, Ron threw a punch, but people backed away. They didn't want to be touched by faggot blood. In the end, all Ron could do was spit at them before stumbling out under a cloud of disdain. That night, Ron attended the support group, but even faced with kindness from fellow patients, including gay men, he still felt deeply uncomfortable. He grabbed a stack of AIDS pamphlets and hurried out. For the first time, Ron felt true fear in the face of death. Just when he didn't know what to do, he spotted the janitor from the hospital. That's how the two connected. From then on, the janitor began smuggling ACT out for him. They exchanged money for medication. Although Ron got the drugs, he lost his job and his friends began to avoid him. But Ron didn't care. He continued living on his own terms. The good times didn't last. On the 28th day after his diagnosis, the hospital tightened security, and the janitor could no longer get the drugs. Ron offered all the money he had on him, but all he got in return was an address for an underground clinic in Mexico. The janitor told Ron to seek out a certain Mexican doctor who supposedly had AIDS medication. Feeling cheated, Ron threw a punch, but the janitor dodged it easily. Ron, however, collapsed from the exertion. When Ron woke up in the hospital, doctors found traces of ACT in his blood, but he didn't snitch on the janitor. A patient named Ryan, who shared his room, approached him. Though biologically male, Ryan had a feminine spirit. Ron still claimed he hated gay people, but Ryan didn't mind. He even brought over a deck of cards to help Ron pass the time. After a few rounds, Ron lost badly, and then his leg cramped up. Ryan gently massaged it to ease the pain, but Ron's attitude remained unchanged. Without ACT, Ron knew staying in the hospital meant waiting to die, so he insisted on checking out against medical advice. When he got home, he found the word faggot spray painted on his door in red, and the lock had been broken. Ron roared in anger, but the only response was the barking of a dog. He took out his gun, blew the lock open, grabbed his savings and a painting left by his mother, and left the place he had called home since childhood. After driving aimlessly for a day, he pulled over, took out his gun, and weighed his options. On the 29th day since the doctor's verdict, he would rather take his own life than die from what people called a faggot disease. But in the end, he didn't pull the trigger. He remembered the address the janitor had given him. Clinging to one last shred of hope, he set off for Mexico.